To make the axolotl's ears, we're going to do a foundation chain. So to start a foundation chain, we need to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, get your orange yarn, position the yarn tail off to the right, and then we're going to just pick that up with our right hand and fold the yarn over itself so that it's intersecting at some point. Then we are going to pick up that loop again and then fold it over so that the rest of the yarn that's connected to the yarn ball is vaguely in the middle of this loop. Now we're going to pick up that yarn and then just pull on the yarn tail and the rest of the yarn connected to the yarn ball until a knot forms. And it doesn't matter how big this loop is, it's adjustable. That's why it's called a slip knot. Now you're going to pick up your hook, and if you're right-handed, you want to make it so that the knot is to the left of the hook. If you're left-handed, you want the knot to be to the right of the hook. And as you saw, I just pulled on the yarn connected to the yarn ball to make that loop smaller. And we want to make that loop just big enough so that it's easy for the entire hook to go through. You do not want to tighten that loop so that the knot is right against the hook. Otherwise, you'll have bad times when trying to make this chain. Okay, if you need to make it looser, just pull the hook away. Now we are going to hold on to the yarn like you normally do. And this time we are going to hold on to the knot with our thumb and middle finger. Next up, we need to make a chain with 8 chain stitches in it. So to do that, we're going to yarn over and then pull that yarn through the one loop that's on the hook. That V that we just made, that is 1 chain stitch. So we just got to repeat that, yarn over and pull that yarn through the loop on the hook. That's a 2nd chain stitch. And watch how I'm going to move my yarn hand after I made 2 stitches so that my thumb and middle finger are holding the yarn as close as possible to the hook. Doing this will help make sure that the chain that you make is going to be fairly straight. So yarn over again, pull that yarn through the loop on the hook. That's the 3rd chain. Readjust your yarn hand so you have lots of control over your piece. Yarn over, pull that yarn through the loop on the hook. Repeat this a total of 8 times. I'm going to meet you at the end. Here I am. And let's just double check that we actually have 8 chain stitches in this essentially foundation chain. So we're looking for those horizontal V's, and we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. So now we need to connect the last stitch to the first stitch. So to do that, we are going to fold the first stitch over. So now we're making like a sideways U. Our goal is to create an O. And to do that, we're going to use the hook and split to the very first V, the very first chain stitch. So it should look like you've got 2 loops on your hook. So if you need that shown bigger, if this is what the stitch looked like, I put the hook in between the 2 sides of the V so that the hook is under half of the V. Okay, and now we're going to do a slip stitch. A slip stitch simply means yarning over and bringing that yarn through both loops on the hook. Now we're going to pause and use the stitch marker here. We're using the stitch marker to help us see where we need to keep on putting the hook later on. It's not being used to mark the first stitch of every round because there's no rounds we're working with here. So I'm going to grab that stitch marker, and remember to make your loop for your hook real big so you don't accidentally lose your place. And I want to put that stitch marker under the V that this loop traces back into. So I need to put it over here. And now I don't need to worry about remembering where I need to put my hook in later. Okay, so get back into crocheting position, and we are going to do another 8 chain stitches. So that's just yarning over and bringing that yarn through the 1 loop on your hook, adjusting your yarn hand so that you're holding on to your piece as close as possible to the hook. We're going to do this total of 8 times, and I will meet you there. Okay, we've made our chain of 8 stitches, and again, we are going to make another slip stitch in exactly the same spot. So we are going to fold our piece in half again and put our hook under the stitch that's marked by the stitch marker. And so it should look like you have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to yarn over and bring it through all of the loops on the hook, like so. Then we're going to make a 3rd loop. Same exact process. We're going to do a chain 8, yarn over, bring that yarn through the 1 loop on your hook, and keep on going 8 times. And then we're going to put our hook in exactly the same spot marked by the stitch marker again. And we're going to do a slip stitch, which means yarning over and pulling it through everything that's on the hook. Great. So now you should have 3 loops. Then that's going to be the ear of the axolotl. To fasten off, we are going to just yarn over and pull that yarn through the loop on the hook, and then cut about 6 inches away from your piece, and then keep on pulling the yarn all the way through until a knot has formed. And you can take the stitch marker out. You don't need it anymore. It was just there to help you see where you needed to put your hook to make those slip stitches.